2, 1, 2. And hello and a very warm welcome to everyone watching the stream. and welcome to the first round of the online racing league Assetto Corsa Competizione league. Today with the first race in Silverstone. So, as you'll see on screen, we will have a qualifying session of 10 minutes that will start in just a few seconds time. And then we will proceed to the race, which is actually just 40 minutes today instead of the 80 minutes on screen. But everything else still remains the same. We will have one mandatory pit stop, which drivers can serve whenever they choose to do so. We have a grid of 18 cars today, so not the biggest grid, but all the more exciting. So, we'll just quickly wait for the time to pass so we can proceed into qualifying. While we wait, just a few things about this league. The online racing league, Assetto Corsa Competizione league, it's the first one, the first Assetto Corsa Competizione league that online racing league is holding. We will have 5 races over the season. One today at Silverstone, as qualifying is about to start. One in Silverstone today, then we will move on to Spa in round 2 on the 7th of September. We will then proceed to Monza the week after, 2 weeks break until we move on to the Hungaroring in Hungary, and lastly 1 week after that the season final in Barcelona. So all the important tracks are right there. Drivers now starting their qualifying session. And let's see who's out first on track, and we will just follow them around for 1 lap of this track. I think the first driver on track right now should be Kalgan Sulamanoglu. Currently drivers fighting for track position before they start their qualifying lap. But of course still half the lap to go before their warm-up lap. Let's see if they can sort this out before they cross the finish line. We don't want to have a Formula 1 Monza situation. Not the kind of shenanigans that we really want to see in qualifying, especially with 10 minutes time. Pretty short qualifying session, so only a few chances to set a good lap time. And with a 40-minute race to go, they need a good track position early on in this race. Otherwise they will be struggling in the race. Although with 1 pit stop you can maybe pull a few strategical maneuvers. I think that is the 27 car that's ahead in front. The 57 car of Leonid Makovin, who is now starting his lap time. So then, starting lap, not the same start-finish line in Formula 1, in case any Formula 1 fans are watching, which I'm guessing with online racing lead. Through Cops, very, very fast corner, and then you head into Maggots and Beckett's, some of the best corners in around all racetracks in the world. Very fast left-right combination, which you then have to finish by going through Beckett's. Very important exit, because you're now heading onto the Hangar Straight. And Leonid looking good so far. No big mistakes. Going into Stowe. Stowe very fast right-hander. 4th gear, I think. Then go onto the Vale Straight, into the Vale Chicane. Very dangerous sausage curb on the inside there. You absolutely cannot touch that, or your lap will be ruined. Now going through Club onto the newly named Hamilton Straight. Or I think rather the Sir Hamilton Straight as it's called now. Then through Abbey, again very, very fast corner. Which this track is pretty much remarkable for all its fast corners, going into Village, through the Loop, through Aintree, onto the Wellington Straight. One of the 3 long straights on this track. And then into Brooklands. And then through Luffield, this slow, excruciatingly long right-hander. But once you're through with that, a bit wide there, but I think that lap is still valid. That's also a very creative line, but it seems to be a legal line. And then heading to the straight finish line, and that's 1:57.8 from Leonid, which is immediately beaten by a 1:57.82, just 200ths faster from Alexei Meyer. And let's take a look at the other lap times. In third for the moment, that's Jus Parek in the 21 car, who is immediately beaten by Benedikt Wieder with 1:58.8 and puts it to the side for now. Then we have Silver Joffet, who's now heading out of the pit lane again. So set one lap, immediately going for the next one again. But for the moment, 1:57.8 still seems to be the time to beat, as half of this qualifying session is over. Towards the back of the grid, we have Manuel Rutter with 1:59.7, but on a very fast lap right now, looking for quite some improvement. We'll see where he ends up. We have Jos Karepere with a 2:06. I'm also very sorry about any names that I'm getting wrong, because I'm very sure I'm getting a lot of them wrong. Apologies. And a few drivers still to set their lap time. Drivers still on the track. I think all drivers currently trying to set a lap time, of course. 3 minutes to go. So anybody who is not currently on a flying lap really needs to start with flying lap. As we see Jus Karepere giving quite a lot of substream to the 28 car, sorry. All the leading drivers now in the pits, the first 4 runners. So Alexei Meyer, who's currently on provisional pole with a 1:57.5, amazing lap time. Now heading out again, and so is Leonid Markovin, who is about 1/10 slower. And of course trying to make up that time to set himself on pole. apologies that I don't have any timings for you at the moment. So you will have to contend with me telling you the lap times. I'm trying to sort that out. But for the moment still everything's staying the same. So we have the front runners still on the out lap, about to start their last flying lap any minute now. And if everyone else already on their flying lap, for instance we have Benedikt Vida, who is currently looking at a 4/10 improvement, which he managed, put himself into 4th, can squeeze in another lap, but has to use this one, no time to do another outlap right now. Leonid Markovin pulling to the side, so he's giving up. That's it for his qualifying session, so he's definitely P2 at the very max. Looking at P3, that's currently taken by Jusparek. Not really looking at any improvements right now, but just started this lap. One driver who is already looking at quite a lot of improvement. That's our current provisional pole sitter, Alexei Meyer, with a 1:57.5 and currently 1:10 faster as the qualifying session comes to a close. So let's see, he can improve in some way, shape or form, as we have current P5, Alexei Soltnev also aborting his lap. So that's P5 for him. Only driver to really be able to beat Meyer right now would be Jusparek, but he currently not really improving, actually setting after half the lap on exactly the same delta as on his fastest lap. So he has to find quite some time. He would need around 4/10 as it looks right now, because Meyer also improving. And the only other driver on track, that's Benedikt Vida, who is also no improvement, now finishing his lap. So that's P4 for him. See Alexei Meyer now making it towards the finish line. And that's it for the qualifying session. So, pole sitter, that is Alexei Meyer. He will start from pole. Behind him we have Leonid Markovin. Behind them, Jusparek, car number 21. Behind him, Benedikt Vida, P4. Then Alexei Soltnev in P5. Dario Eomulo in P6. Jeffrey Miguel Reno Ritchie, that's one hell of a name, in P7. Behind him, Jonas Hughes, P8. We have Silver Joffert, P9. Manuel Rutter, that's one name I can actually pronounce in this field, P10. Benze Fazekas, P11. Kagan Sulemanoglu, P12. Rain Lauper, P13. Jus Carapere, P14. We have Jana Titus, P15. Alperen Adibelli, P16. Kjell Arefort, P17. And I believe we lost P18, at least for the moment. So, 3 minutes until race start, and we will see you in a bit when the race starts. And we're back. Race about to start in 1 minute, 40-minute race around Silverstone. And of course, has to be said, thank you to all sponsors who are supporting Online Racing League. And again, thank you to everyone who is watching on the stream. We are just about to start the race and looking forward to 40 minutes of action-packed racing. And this the first race in Assetto Corsa Competizione for Online Racing League. The first of 5 races this season. So just again, to reiterate, today Silverstone. On the 24th of August, in 2 weeks' time, we are meeting at Spa on the 7th of December. 1 week after that, Monza on the 14th. 2 weeks afterwards, Hungaroring, 28th of September. And 1 week after the season finale in Barcelona on the 5th of October. And drivers now starting their engines. We are heading towards the start-finish line. And we go! We are live! Alexi Meyer coming away very well, but under a bit of pressure from Markovin. Those two already pulling in front. We have a crash behind. That's Jules Parek, massive crash. We have a lot of going on, a lot of drivers going out involved in that. We have Solznev, Parek, Arefort, Alexander Mitt. So we'll have to see what happened there. Maybe we can take a look at the replay. So it was a battle for the first positions. A bit of contact right at the start. One driver cutting across and then just a chain reaction. Everyone crashing into each other. We saw Manu Rutter taking evading action but coming out quite alright out of that. Alexander Meyer still leading, still being chased by Markovin. And a lot of drivers now falling behind, so the grid shaking up quite a bit. GG in the chat, yeah, very much. And we again have a car off, that's Adibelli who is stationary. Small spin, I don't know if another car was involved. Oh, very dangerous rejoin, already taking out Jusparek, almost. Meanwhile, at the start, Maya still leading from Mavkovin. Behind them now Dario Iamulu, who had quite a lot of benefit from that starting crash. Managed to get into third. I'm imagining also quite a lot of damage for some of the drivers who were involved in that crash, but remember, we have one mandatory pit stop. So while it's still annoying, it's not the end of the world. They can still make up that time. Iamulu being chased by Benedikt Vida. 2 tenths between them. But in front of them, already pulling ahead by quite a bit, Alexander Meyer and Mavkovin. Alexei, I'm sorry, not Alexander. That's German enemy coming through. And Iamulu had a bit of an off there. Let's take a look. What happened there? Yeah, just a bit too much curb. And that was an interesting rejoin. Gained quite a lot of time there, as we have T2s in the back, the 66 car who is stationary. We will stay with this for a bit. Iamulu on the gravel again, on the grass rather, and that's to the benefit of Richie, who was thinking about trying a move, but sticks back for now. So let's take a look. If he dare tries anything here. Has a look down the inside, but thinks better of it. And so he should, but that look down the inside cost him a lot of speed that he now cannot use down the Cornwall straight. So maybe a bit too brave. That's one of the main battles going on right now, and we have another crash! So let's see, that was Ruta trying a move on Carapere. I believe that is on the Cornwall straight. Looks down the inside, Carapere closing the inside, and they come together while Ruta tries to switch back. I wouldn't want to assign any blame in that. Both of them now dropping back quite heavily. Actually just Carapere, who went down to 13th from P9. Ruta already back in P10. So we have Richie still chasing down Iamulu. Not quite sure why this says 4th. He is actually 5th. He is trying to get 4th. Still 2 tenths behind them. We already have a stop-go penalty that is for Joffard. So I'm guessing that's for the crash at the start. Joffard who already also dropping quite a few positions. I apologize for the timing on the left not working properly. I'm not sure what's going on there. Assetto Corsa is a bit famous for wonky timing from time to time, but I'm trying to do my best to keep you up on what's happening. And at the moment, the main thing that's happening is still this battle for 4th between Richie and Iamulu. Richie very eager to get by. We see him having a lot of looks down the inside, around the outside, but Iamulu closing the door quite well. Still hanging back for now. At the front we still have Markovgin in 2nd behind Alexei Meyer, who is still 1st, around half a second between them. That gap has stayed around the same for the last 5 minutes. And Benedikt Vida actually quite close, gained a lot of time on those two. Not close enough to try anything, but close enough to at least have a chance in case anything happens in front of them. And Richie still very much looking at that AMG bumper. See Iyamulu again on the grass. And also now with the drive-through. Iyamulu has the drive-through penalty. So already 3 corner cuts from him, which I'm not surprised by. And that essentially decides this battle, as we see another 30-second stop-and-go penalty for Lauper, currently P9. Or rather P10. Very, very odd timing again. My apologies. I'm not sure what was going on with that. So this is now a very annoying situation for Richie actually, because he still can't get past. Of course, Iyamolo is still defending that position, even though essentially he has already lost that position due to the stop-and-go penalty. So some other battles around the front. We still have these 2 drivers, Leonid Markovkin and Alexei Meyer, staying within half a second of each other. Iyamulu using the iRacing tire stretch, that's exactly right, yeah. Trying to cool that tire, and yeah, that tire will cool down by quite a bit once he has to head into the pits for his drive-through penalty, which he has to serve in the span of, I think it's 3 laps. And Richie will wait for that opportunity and yeah, back him to finally drive into the pits to finally serve a penalty, because he's still stuck behind. And they're losing a lot of time on the front runners. Now already 4 seconds behind P1 to P3. So we already have a lot of drivers making the pit stop. That's Kjell Arefort. Now heading into the pits. I'm not sure if that's a planned pit stop. They have to pit once, they have to refuel, they don't have to change tires though. And over the course of 40 minutes, I would be very surprised if anyone opts for a tire change. We have another yellow flag, that was Adi Belli, who probably just had a small off. Let's take a look if we can spot anything. Well, just a small connection issue. Alexei Solznev in P8, trying to chase down P7 on the heels of Fazekas in the BMW. And another yellow flag, that's Alexander Mitt, stationary at the moment. That's on the Cornwall straight, so very much looking like some sort of connection issue. That's because he's not getting off again. Would be a very weird place for a crash. Let's hope he can sort everything out. Benedikt Wieder now managed to get closer. He's now 8 tenths behind Mavkovin. Also Iyamulu now heading into the pit, serving his penalty. That has promoted Richie into P4. He's been chasing for so long. So this front-running group, very much on a field on their own at the moment. It's a 6-second gap to P4, so the podium places not really in contention at the moment, but of course all 3 of those still have to pit. And it's still half an hour to go. Things can happen. And Mavkovin, who has been looking on that Aston Martin bumper for quite some time now, pretty sure also really wants to get past. They're already catching up to some of the backmarkers. That's Ari Fjord, who you just saw on the camera. Currently down in P13, so backmarkers starting to play a part quite early on, which I am surprised by. But of course we had that massive accident and some people already opted to pit, or rather had to pit to repair damages. And he has now also made quite a lot of space. Dove out of the way very well. Further back we have Alexei Solznev. Still on the hits of Fazekas. After the pits, that's now 4P6. None of the drivers from P1 down to P8 have pitted yet. Also in P10 we have Adibelli, who hasn't pitted yet. Everyone else has already been to the pits. And so is now Solznev, who decided to give up on that battle, rather take the pit, maybe try the undercut. Benedikt Vida now gained quite a lot of time, 3/10 behind Mavkovin now. Again, I apologize for all those names. A lot of Eastern European drivers in this field. A few Russian drivers, a few Estonian drivers. Not my strong suit to pronounce any of that. Nevertheless, Benedikt Vida, that's quite an easy one. And he is now having a very good look at the back of Mavkovin. But was pretty error-free so far. I don't think I've seen any off-tracks or any rash moves from either of them. So very well behaved. We have a yellow flag somewhere, that's Arifjord. And we've also lost one driver, not quite sure who that was. So down to 16 for the remainder of this race. Vida now very close. Could maybe try a move here. But of course, cops coming up. That's a very difficult spot to overtake. Pretty much very few overtaking opportunities for the remainder of this lap. Or rather until after Maggots and Beckett's. You can try a very brave maneuver into Stowe. But for now I think he has to, take a lesson in patience. So let's have trying it on the corner straight, going down the inside. And very good move, getting past Adibelli, very clean overtaking. That was good to watch. So he now up into P9, which is a number that I shouldn't be yelling out with this accent. So, at the moment, closest fight still between those three. Benedikt Vida as close as he has ever been. Now needs to hang back, try to use the slipstream on the corner straight. Let's see if he can gain anything, but of course Mavkovin also has a slipstream in front from Alexei Meyer. Very close into the braking zone, but still not close enough to really try any moves. And now, again, in the same situation as last lap around, now has to hang back for probably half the lap, and he decides to go into the pits actually. So listening to my hopelessness and any overtaking maneuvers, goes into the pits, serves as mandatory pit stop, and will take a look where he comes out after those two have been into the pits, who are still very much chasing each other down and trading laps. Best lap time at the moment, a 1:58.3. That's from Benedikt Vida. Best lap time from Leonid Mavkovin is 1:58.38. So that's around half 100 slower. So yeah, not much between either of those drivers. That's already 7 seconds the gap to Richie, who's the closest to the podium runners. And 2 in turn has a 4-second gap behind him, so very much can focus on his race at the moment. And we lost another driver, down to 15 right now. Almost passing the halfway point of this race, 40-minute race, and 22 minutes still to go. Markovkin still half a second. That gap, I don't think it has actually changed in the last 80 minutes. It has been at about half a second for this entire race so far. So there's really nothing at all between those two. As we also saw in the qualifying session, very close lap times. And as we have Josparek in the chat, good evening mate, currently serving his pit stop. And so is Leonid Markovkin, who now dives into the pits. Alexei Meyer is not. So both Benedikt Wieder, who is already out of the pits, and Markovkin trying the undercut on Alexei Meyer. We'll have to wait and see where Alexei comes out with. Will be very exciting to see which strategy works best here. Over a 40-minute race with a mandatory pit stop strategy actually plays quite a big part. In case you're not familiar, in Assetto Corsa Competizione you can gain quite a lot of time through a better pit stop. So depending on how well you stop in your box, how well you perform your pit entry, you can gain whole seconds on your opponents. Benedikt Vida, who should be in P2, de facto P2, when everybody has stopped the pit stop. Which, no, actually, I'm wrong. I'm entirely wrong. So, Benedikt Vida with Leonid Markovkin now out of the pits already. Benedikt Vida has lost 9 seconds during the pit stop. I'm not quite sure if he had to repair some sort of damage in the pit. Yeah, losing 9 seconds. And that promoted Daru Iamulu, who we already saw serving a drive-through penalty. And I'm not quite sure if that has counted as this mandatory pit stop. My timing device says it does. Not quite sure if the rules agree, or if he has actually been to the pits afterwards already. But he is now in front of Benedikt Vida. And in the process of chasing down Markovkin, who has been P2 before his pit stop. A very good strategy maneuver from him, as we already saw him going off track again too. So he has to be careful to not make it 2 drive-through penalties in the span of a 40-minute lap, 40-minute race. Alexei Meyer still going on, still going for at least one another lap. Of course, we don't know with what amount of fuel the driver started. They have to fuel up in the pit lane. That is mandatory, but to serve a mandatory fuel up, 1 liter is already enough. So some drivers may opt to start with almost their entire race fuel. Some drivers may opt to only start with a bit of fuel, go for an early pit stop and have a very quick first stint on a very light car. The front running 4 drivers currently yet still to pit. So that's Alexei Meyer, that's also Richie, that is Kagan Süleymanoglu, and that is Manu Rutter. They still have to dive into the pits. And afterwards we will have a clearer picture of where everyone is on the grid at the moment. And yeah, other than that, not a lot of close battles on track at the moment. So everyone trying to get into their groove. Everyone just sort of trying to manage the gap. As we have Alexi Meyer finally going into the pit. So we'll just quickly watch this pit stop because I'm very curious to see how big of a stop that will be. Also Richie diving to the pit. So Alexi Meyer stops in the box. I think that was quite a good stop. And starting up again, so very quick pit stop. Promotes Suli Manulgu into P1 for the moment. Of course not a de facto race lead, but it's still one for the statistics. So that's always nice. Manu Rutter also going into the pit. And Leonid Markovin has managed to pull ahead of Alexi Meyer. So the undercut has worked. By pitting early, Leonid Markovin managed to gain around 2 seconds on Meyer. And is now in the race lead. Or rather will be in the race lead in a few moments time. Benedikt Vida, around 10 seconds behind those two after he was fighting with them earlier on the race. So had quite a slow pit stop, lost out due to it, and I'm still curious to see where Dario Iamolu will end up. If he still has to go into the pits. We already saw him cutting another corner somewhere in this lap. His lap time is already invalid. Has to be careful. It would be really annoying to give up this fight for maybe a podium position by having a second drive-through. And he lost it! Oh! That was a commentator's curse if I ever saw one. Iamolu lost it, lost around 5 seconds in that incident. And has to give up the chase for Alexi Meyer. Ooh. I feel like that is my fault. And I think, the last driver going into the pits, that's Kagan Suleimanoglu. Now also in the pit, which will promote Leonid Markovin and Meyer into the race lead again. And Kagan losing a few positions. And we also see Dario going into the pits again. I'm just going to stay with first name so for now. I think that's easier on everyone. So Dario going into the pits. Apparently the drive-through just counted as a pit stop in my timing tower and not in the rules. And another drive-through a bit further down the fields for Fazekas. Drive-through most likely due to track limits. That's the default penalty in-game. You have 3 warnings. Afterwards you will get a drive-through penalty. And one of those warnings may have just gone to Alexi Meyer, who went a bit wide there, definitely invalidated the lap time, but he will be very annoyed to have lost that first place during the pit stops. And has already made up at least a few tenths on Leonid. As we see Fazekas now going into the pit, serving the drive-through, and now has a 30-second stop-go penalty. Not sure what happened there. And also, just to add insult to injury, now had a bit of a moment, had a bit of an off. Down in P12, and after he serves that penalty, I'm pretty sure that will be last place, so 14 for now. Let's take a look for the field. Manu Rutter still in the race after he was involved in an accident at the very start. Narrowly avoided that crash. Speeding in the pit line, that's a good shot, yeah, thank you Foxy. So yeah, probably speeding in the pit lane after serving the drive-through. I forgot that that was a thing. That's around the worst thing you can have that can happen to you. Manu Rutter started in P10, narrowly avoided that start at the crash, had to go off track, then was involved in another accident that saw him go down to 11th, but again up to 7th, so good recovery drive. 5 seconds behind P6 at the moment, and 5 seconds seems to be the common theme with all of the drivers right now. The closest gap on the track is still the gap between P1 and P2, at the moment at 1.4 seconds. Pretty much the same lap times between Meyer and Markovkin. As we have the last driver who still had a mandatory pit stop, that's Adibelli, now going into the pit. And also Fazekas, serving the stop and go penalty. Just following Richie for a moment. He was earlier in a very heavy fight for P4, but after the drive penalty for Iamolu, the first one, has to, pretty much had to drive his own race for the entirety of the rest of the race. I don't think he has been closer than 5 seconds for the last 20 minutes to any other driver. But kept it clean, no incidents, and maybe rewarded with P4 for doing so. We're still watching Alexei Meyer trying to go after P1. Already gained back 4 tenths after a bit of a, I don't want to say slow because it was still an amazing lap time, but a bit slower than Markovkin during the previous lap. Now fighting back somewhat. It's around the 7 tenths gap that you really want to get into. If you are in range of 7 tenths, you can utilize the slipstream, which on this track is quite strong. Quite a few straights that you can utilize, and most of them with an overtaking opportunity at the end. But if you're just out of that 7 tenths range, things start to get a bit annoying. So we will see if Meyer can fight back into the slipstream range, and if we can maybe see a fight for the lead towards the end of this race. And also a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for Adibelli, who just had to head into the pits, so that's probably another case of speeding in the pit lane. I guess the only person who will actually be happy by that news is BenQ Fazekas, who will be out of last place after Adibelli serves that penalty. One driver that I haven't mentioned all that much so far. That's Kagan Suleimanoglu. P5, a very solid result. Also has been pretty clean, pretty quiet throughout the whole race. But especially in short races like this, with some spins, some incidents, being quiet and not being noticed all that much mostly is a good thing. And we see it right here. P5. Just a bit of a visit to the grass there, but nothing too major. 10 seconds behind P4, so he would have to speed up quite a bit to make up that gap. but also 6 seconds behind, so not really under any threat of losing P5 either. Towards the front, Alexei Meyer starting to drop back somewhat. Gap now 1.7 seconds. So Markovkin can be at least somewhat calm, try to focus on his race, and doesn't have to focus all that much on Meyer behind. So we still have 8 minutes to go, plus 1 lap. Benedikt Vida also gap now down to 10 seconds. So seems to, I don't want to say seems to be happy with P3, but yeah, not really trying anything too brave to try to get back to P2. Pretty much driving the same lap times as Meyer and Markovkin. Also have Rain Lauper, currently P12. I don't think I have mentioned him so far. Down in P12. Also, yeah, quiet race. Just calm hot lapping, you could almost say. But also has kept out of trouble, which is always a good thing. 5 seconds in front. That's P11. That's Silver Joffert, who has a 25-second gap to Jonas Hughes in P10. Yeah, still very big gaps across the field at the moment, which I don't think I have actually mentioned about the car selection so far. We just had a rebalancing patch coming out. I think the last race I commentated in another league had a very Audi-dominated field. At the moment we only have one sole Audi still on the field. That's the number 1 car of Lauper. For the most part it's very mixed field. 4 BMWs, we have 2 Aston Martins, we have 3 McLarens. So it doesn't really feel like any car is necessarily faster than the other at the moment. Which, yeah, always good to see. I always personally hate it when the ACC grids consist solely of the same car and half the drivers are driving the same thing. For the moment still on board with Alexei Meyer. Also, just to quickly mention, we have a pretty hot track at the moment, almost 40 degrees track temperature. So even though it's only a 40-minute race, we should very likely see some tire drop-off towards the end. I doubt that any driver will have changed tires during the mandatory pit stop. That would take a lot of time, especially if it's not necessary. So tires may slowly start to deteriorate somewhat, with 4 minutes of the race still to go. And one driver that Meyer will hope has trouble with the tires towards the end. That's Leonid Markovkin, who's still in front. 1.4 seconds at the moment. And we have, yeah, a spin in the back. I was just mentioning him a minute ago about how he kept it clean. And Rain Lauper had a bit of a spin there. Let's take a look at the replay. Yeah, just a bit of snap oversteer on the exit. I think that was onto the hanger straight. Manages to turn it around quite confidently. And we have a drive-through for Silver Jaffet, which will be good news again for Rain Lauper. So from yeah, at least some bit of hope after that spin. He will very likely inherit P11, 14 seconds behind. So should be able to make use of that drive-through penalty in front of him. Manu Rutter currently P7. He is very slowly but confidently catching up to P6. That's Alexei Solznev. 3.5 seconds between them. We should have around 3 laps remaining. As we have again an off for Rain Lauper. Maybe I should just stop talking about him because I feel like I'm very much cursing him. Going back to Rutter, 3.3 seconds. So looking at the lap times, last time around, pretty much the same lap time as Solznev in front. So he has to really start turning it up, which I know he can. There's definitely room for improvement in his lap times for the moment. Alexei Meyer, meanwhile, dropping off again. Gap now up to 2 seconds. So our pole sitter not really able to keep up with Markovkin. Benedikt Vida also still 9 seconds behind. Gained around 1 second during the last few laps. But with around 2 laps to go, that's definitely not enough to try a challenge for P2. As we hear the nice race engineer telling us the leader's on the final lap. That's Markovkin, who just crossed the start-finish line. Yeah, 1 minute 30 to go. So, yeah, that's his last lap. And with no close battles on track right now, we will just follow him around for this last lap. And see if he manages to bring it home safely. So after Hanger Straight now, heading towards what is the start-finish line in the Formula 1 configuration of Silverstone. Not around here though. That's the Lewis Hamilton Straight, the newly named Lewis Hamilton Straight, I believe. Actually lost a bit of time there. Meyer, pretty much at the last possible minute, pulled out a whole second. What's up with that? Yeah, Markovkin slowly dropping a few tenths to Meyer. Of course, I doubt it will be enough. Not quite sure what happens there. But seems to have picked it up back up again now. As we have Markovkin, only 1 corner to go. Nothing can go wrong anymore. And he brings it home in P1 and wins this race, wins the first race of the online racing league, Assetto Corsa Competizione league. Behind him, Alexei Meyer, our pole sitter. Hard-fought battle between throughout the whole race. And just brought it home in second, but very good drive from him. Benedikt Vida, P3, also very hard-fought. And behind him in P4, that's Jeffrey, Miguel Reno, Richie, who just spins it around in celebration. As we have Kagan Suleimanoglu getting it home in P5. Alexei Solznev was under a bit of threat for Manu Rutter towards the end, but manages to make P6. So Rutter in P7. Dario Iamolu, after a very unlucky drive-through, coming home in P8. Although he was fighting towards the front places for quite some time during the race. So still very good job from him. Just keep it on the track next time, will you? Jos Carrepere making it towards the finish line. One of the last cars to finish. He will bring it home in P9. Behind him, Jonas Hughes, who will take it home in P10. And we have Silver Joffert already finishing the race in P11, so did BenQ Fazekas in P12. And Alperen Adibelli now coming home in P13. So those are our finishers. Congratulations to everyone. It was a very good race. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time around Spa. So again, that's in 2 weeks on the 7th of September. Same time, 8 p.m. Central European Time, 6 p.m. UCT. You will again be notified on this channel. Would be very glad if you chose to join us on the stream next time. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for being here. Again, congratulations to all drivers. Thank you for taking part in this league. And see you next time.